Song 4 and Chapter 4 Summary. Philosophy advises Boethius to face both good and bad fortune, which has no true power over him, with integrity. He passionately recounts how he had followed her advice in studying philosophy in his work in public affairs, but had been falsely accused and was being unjustly punished. That the evil plot has succeeded is what astonishes him. He laments because, unlike him, unpunished criminals enjoy pleasure. Song 4. Nothing can subdue virtue. He who, calm, serene, sedate, sets his foot on haughty fate, firm and steadfast, come what will, keeps composed his bearing still, him the sea waves' furious roar, churning up the ocean floor, nor the flames from smoky forges that Vesuvius disgorges, nor the bolt that from the sky smites the tower, can terrify. Why, then, should you suffer fright at the tyrant's weakling might? Dread him not, and fear no harm, and you will his rage disarm. But who to hope or fear gives way, lost his own heart's rightful sway, he has cast away his shield, like a coward fled the field. He has forged, all unaware, chains that his own neck must bear. Chapter 4. Do you understand? She asked. Do my words sink into your mind? Or are you insensible as the donkey to the sound of the harp? Why do you weep? Why do tears stream from your eyes? Speak out. Do not hide it in your heart. If you want the physician's help, you must uncover your wound. Then, gathering together what strength I could, I began. Do I really need to tell you? Is not the cruelty of fortune against me plain enough? Does not the very appearance of this place move you? Is this my library, the room that you had chosen as your constant retreat in my home, the place where we so often sat together and talked about all things in heaven and earth? Was my dress and bearing like this when I explored with you nature's hidden secrets, and you traced the courses of the stars for me with your staff, while you molded my character and the whole conduct of my life after the pattern of the celestial order? Is this how I am repaid for my obedience? Yet you had prescribed by Plato's mouth the maxim that states would be happy, either if philosophers ruled them, or if their rulers would become philosophers. By his mouth, in the same way, you pointed out this imperative reason why philosophers should enter public life, lest, if the reins of government be left to unprincipled and reckless citizens, trouble and destruction would come upon the good. Following these precepts, I have tried to apply in the business of public administration the principles that I learned from you in leisured seclusion. You are my witness, as well as that divinity who has implanted you in the hearts of the wise, that I brought to my duties no aim but zeal for the public good. For this reason I have become involved in bitter and irreconcilable feuds, and, as inevitably happens, if a man holds fast to the independence of conscience, I have had to think nothing of giving offense to the powerful in the cause of justice. How often have I encountered and hindered Conagastus in his assaults on the fortunes of the weak? How often have I thwarted Trigula, steward of the king's household, even when his villainous schemes were as good as accomplished? How often have I risked my position and influence to protect poor wretches from the innumerable false charges with which they were forever being harassed by the wild greed of the barbarians? No one has ever drawn me aside from justice to oppression. When ruin was overtaking the fortunes of the provincials through the combined pressure of private pillage and public taxation, I grieved no less than the sufferers. Once a forced sale of grain in order to feed the army was proclaimed during a famine, which would have been as disastrous as it was unjustifiable, and which threatened to overwhelm Campania with starvation. I embarked on a struggle with the praetorian prefect in the public interest, fighting the case at the king's judgment seat, and succeeded in preventing the enforcement of the sale. I rescued the consular Paulinus from the gaping jaws of the court bloodhounds, who in their covetous hopes had already made short work of his wealth. To save Albinus, who was of the same exalted rank, from punishment, when he was pronounced guilty before a trial, I exposed myself to the hatred of Cyprian, the public prosecutor. Do you think I had gathered enough opposition against myself? Well, with the rest of my countrymen, at any rate, my safety should have been assured, since my love of justice had left me no hope of security at court. Yet who brought the charges by which I have been struck down? Why, one of my accusers is Basil, who, after being dismissed from the king's household, was driven by his debts to denounce me. There is Opilio, there is Gaudentius, men whom the king had condemned to banishment for their many crimes. And when they declined to obey, and sought to save themselves by taking sanctuary, the king, as soon as he had heard of it, decreed that if they did not depart from the city of Ravenna within a prescribed time, they should be branded on the forehead and expelled. What could be a harsher punishment than that? And yet, on that same day, these very men lodged an accusation against me, and the accusation was admitted. Surely I hadn't deserved this by my way of life. Did the fact that my condemnation was a foregone conclusion make them upright accusers? Does fortune have no shame? If not at the accusation of the innocent, at least for the vileness of the accusers? Perhaps you wondered what is the sum of the charges laid against me. I wished, they say, to save the Senate. But how? I'm accused of hindering an informer from producing evidence that accused the Senate of treason. Give me your counsel, O my teacher. Should I deny the charge, to avoid bringing shame on you? But I did wish to save the Senate, and I will never cease to wish it. Should I admit it? Then the work of thwarting the informer will grind to a halt. Should I call the wish for the preservation of that illustrious house a crime? Truly the Senate, by its decrees concerning me, has made it such. But blind folly, although it deceives itself with false names, cannot alter the true merits of things. And, remembering the precept of Socrates, I don't think it right either to keep the truth concealed, or to allow falsehood to go unnoticed. But this, however it may be, I leave to your judgment, and to the verdict of the discerning. Furthermore, lest the course of events and the true facts should be hidden from posterity, I have myself committed to writing an account of the transaction. I have no need to speak of the forged letters by which some attempted to prove that I hoped for the freedom of Rome. Their falsehood would have been undeniable if I had been allowed to use the confession of the informers themselves, evidence that has in all matters the most convincing force. But what hope of freedom is left to us? If we had even a little hope, I would have answered with the saying of Canius when the Emperor Caligula declared that he had been aware of a conspiracy against him. If I had known, you would never have known. Grief has not so blunted my perceptions in this matter that I would complain because wretches with no fear of God make villainous plans against the virtuous. But I am shocked that they achieve their hopes. For evil purposes are, perhaps, due to the imperfection of human nature. But it is truly monstrous that scoundrels carry out their worst schemes against the innocent, while God looks on. This is why one of your disciples justly asked, if God exists, where does evil come from? Yet, where does good come from if he does not exist? However, it might well be that wretches who seek the blood of all honest people and of the whole Senate would wish to destroy me too, whom they saw to be a bulwark of the Senate and of all honest men. But did I deserve such a fate from the senators as well? You remember, I am sure, since you always stood by my side to direct what I should do or say, you remember, I say, how at Verona, when the king, eager for general destruction, insisted on implicating the whole senatorial order in the charge of treason brought against Albinus, that I maintained the innocence of its members, one and all, with complete indifference to my own peril. You know that what I profess is the truth, and that I have never boasted of my good deeds in a spirit of self-praise. For whenever a man, by proclaiming his good deeds, receives the reward of fame, he diminishes the secret reward of a good conscience. You can see the outcome of my innocence. Instead of reaping the rewards of true virtue, I undergo the penalties of a guilt falsely laid to my charge. No, more than this, never did an open confession of guilt cause such unanimous severity among the judges, but that some consideration, either of the mere frailty of human nature or of fortune's universal instability, succeeded in softening the verdict. If I had been accused of a scheme to burn down churches, to slaughter priests with a sacrilegious sword, or to massacre all honest people, I would still have been produced in court, and only punished if I confessed or was convicted. Now, for my excessive zeal towards the Senate, I have been condemned to be stripped of my possessions, and to die, unheard and undefended, nearly 500 miles away. After this, my judges, you richly deserve that no one should be convicted of helping you the way I did. Yet even my accusers saw the value of the charge they brought against me, and in order to cast a shadow of guilt on it, they falsely asserted that when I pursued my ambition, I had stained my conscience with sacrilegious acts. And yet your spirit, dwelling in me, had driven all desire for earthly success from the chamber of my soul. And with your eye always upon me, no place could be left for sacrilege. For every day you would repeat in my ear and my mind the Pythagorean maxim, "Follow after God." It was not likely, then, that I would covet the assistance of the vilest spirits when you were molding me to such excellence as would conform me to the likeness of God. Again, the innocence of the inner sanctuary of my home, the company of friends of the highest integrity, a father-in-law revered at the same time for his pure character and his acts of kindness, shield me from even the suspicion of sacrilege. Yet, atrocious as it is, they even draw plausibility for this charge from you. They think I'm implicated in wickedness because I'm filled with your teachings and established in your ways. So it is not enough that my devotion to you would profit me nothing, but you also must be assailed by reason of the disgrace I have incurred. Truly, this is the crown of my misfortunes, that most people form their opinions based not on a case's merits, but on its outcome, and they only acknowledge prudent forethought when fortune makes someone successful. And so reputation is the first loss of the unfortunate. I remember with chagrin the perversity of popular report, the diversity and disagreement of people's views. I will only say this: the most crushing of misfortune's burdens is that as soon as an unhappy person is accused of something, people allege that he deserves his sufferings. I myself, being banished from all life's blessings, stripped of my honors, and stained in reputation, am punished for well-doing. And now I see the villainous dens of the wicked surging with joy and gladness. I see all the most recklessly unscrupulous threatening a new crop of lying denunciations, and the good collapsed with terror at my danger. I see every ruffian incited by impunity to new daring and to success by the profits of audacity, the guiltless not only robbed of their peace of mind, but even of all means of defense. That is the theme of my cry.